My husband told me to stop interrogating him about his spending. Then I found a receipt for a baby stroller. I've always been the type of person who likes to keep track of everything. Every dollar, every cent. It's just the way I operate. Numbers make sense to me. They're neat, orderly, and predictable. Unlike people. And unlike my husband, Eric. I don't mean to sound critical, but he's never been as meticulous about our finances as I am. That's where I come in. I do all the budgeting, track our spending, and make sure we don't fall behind on bills or overspend. I find comfort in that order. Every Friday night for the past 5 years, I'd pour myself a glass of wine and sit down with our bank statement, analyzing every transaction. I'd pull up a spreadsheet and divide our expenses into categories: mortgage, utilities, groceries, savings, etc. I'd do this for hours, making sure everything was in place. It was a ritual I loved, and it gave me a sense of control over our financial life. One evening, as I was reviewing the bank statement, something caught my eye: a $380 withdrawal. That amount stood out, not because it was large, but because it didn't fit anywhere in our usual pattern. It wasn't for anything regular like groceries or bills. I froze for a second, staring at the transaction, trying to make sense of it. It was a single, clean swipe from our account, and it didn't add up. I set my wine glass down, feeling a little uneasy, and decided to ask Eric about it. The kitchen smelled like garlic and olive oil as he chopped vegetables for dinner. He was always so calm, so steady, and his presence usually made me feel safe. But tonight was different. My curiosity had already been piqued, and I needed to know what this mysterious purchase was. Hey, did you make a big purchase recently? There's a $380 withdrawal from the card ending with 12, I asked, trying to keep my voice casual. Eric's paused, the knife hovering over the cutting board for a second before continuing to chop the vegetables. Probably just gas and groceries. Why? I frowned. It was one transaction, not multiple small ones. Maybe I filled up the tank and grabbed some stuff at the store the same day, he replied, his tone still light, but there was a subtle tension in his voice. I was still puzzled. It's from a place I don't recognize, I added. The moment I said that, the rhythm of his chopping stopped completely. The atmosphere in the room shifted. I noticed his shoulders tense under his t-shirt, and suddenly the comfortable kitchen setting felt cold. Why are you interrogating me like I'm on trial, Luna? His voice was sharp, almost angry. I took a step back, feeling the sting of his words. I'm not interrogating you. I'm just asking about our shared account, like I always do. His eyes met mine for the first time, and there was something in his gaze that unsettled me. He slammed the knife down on the counter, the sound of metal hitting wood echoing through the kitchen. You're always so paranoid. Just because you're the budget person doesn't mean I need to report every little thing I do. His words stung. In all the years we'd been together, I had never heard him talk to me like this. It was strange, almost unrecognizable. There was something different about his tone, something I couldn't quite place. Since when is asking about a $380 expense being paranoid? I asked, my voice quiet but firm. Eric didn't respond. He swept the chopped onions into the sizzling pan, his back turned to me. The sizzling sound filled the silence, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Just drop it, okay? He muttered, avoiding my gaze. I stood there, frozen, the weight of his words sinking in. This wasn't just about a small transaction. There was something more to it, and I couldn't shake the feeling that he was hiding something from me. I tried to push the thoughts out of my head, but they lingered, growing louder with every passing minute. Later that evening, after dinner was over and Eric had gone to bed, I found myself still staring at that $380 charge in our bank statement. I kept coming back to it, my mind racing, trying to figure out what it meant. And then, it hit me. We didn't have a baby, so why would he buy a $380 baby stroller? The thought made my stomach drop. I tried to brush it off, but something inside me kept nagging. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I had to find out what was going on. That night, I lay wide awake beside Eric, listening to the steady rhythm of his breathing. The darkness of the room felt suffocating, and my mind raced, replaying our conversation from earlier. The Eric I knew would never hide spending from me. He would never snap at me for simply asking about a charge on our joint account. But now I found myself wondering, was the Eric I knew even real? I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. I stared up at the ceiling, every little detail of our conversation echoing in my mind. The way he'd gotten defensive, the way he'd brushed off my concerns. It felt like there was something he wasn't telling me, something important. The morning arrived, but there was no sense of resolution. We had both taken the day off. I had a salon appointment, and Eric had taken what he called a mental health day. We hadn't discussed anything more about the night before. He moved around the kitchen, making coffee, as if everything was perfectly normal. It was like he hadn't just revealed a crack in the foundation of our relationship. Don't forget we're switching cars today, he said casually, sliding a mug toward me as I sat down at the kitchen counter. Your appointment is at 4, right? I nodded, though my mind wasn't fully on the conversation. I'll clean yours out before I take it, I said absently. The exchange was simple, but it felt off to me. It felt like we were both trying to pretend nothing had happened, but nothing could shake the unease that had settled in my chest. As the morning dragged on, I found myself unable to focus on anything. I couldn't stop thinking about Eric's strange reaction to my question. While Eric was in the living room watching TV, I grabbed my phone and went to the bedroom to call my sister. I needed someone to talk to, someone who could give me an outside perspective. Am I crazy, Jen? I mean, he acted like I accused him of murder or something, I said when she answered. People get weird about money, darling, Jen replied with a sigh. But defensiveness usually means something's up. Trust your gut. Her words didn't give me much comfort, but they did make me even more certain that I wasn't just overreacting. Something was definitely going on. When Eric finally announced that he was going to take a shower that afternoon, my stomach twisted. With nerves. I didn't know how much longer I could ignore the growing suspicion in my chest. As soon as he disappeared into the bathroom, I made my move. I grabbed the car registration from the kitchen drawer and slipped outside. I needed to go through his car. There had to be something there that could explain everything. His car smelled like coffee and his woodsy cologne, the one he'd worn since college. It felt oddly familiar, but at the same time, it made me feel more distant from him than ever. I opened the glove compartment to file away the registration papers, but as soon as I did, I saw it. A crumpled receipt, half hidden under the car manual. My heart skipped a beat. I knew I shouldn't look, but I did anyway. And when I read the total, my entire body went cold. $379.89 for a stroller and car seat combo from Tiny Treasures, a baby boutique in Ridgewood Heights. My mind immediately raced. We didn't have a baby. We weren't expecting one. We hadn't even talked about trying. I couldn't breathe. Then, like a cold slap to the face, it hit me. Tiny Treasures. That was the baby store Rachel had told me about. The one she said had the best deals for expecting mothers. Rachel, Eric's coworker. Pretty pregnant Rachel, who I'd met once at the company holiday party. The one Eric had mentioned was doing it all on her own. The pieces started to click together with sickening clarity. My hands shook as I quickly stuffed the receipt back where I found it. I rushed inside, my heart pounding in my chest. The shower was still running. I needed to know more. Eric's phone sat on the nightstand. I knew I shouldn't, but I grabbed it, surprised to find it unlocked. He must have been checking something before his shower. My fingers trembled as I scrolled through his contacts. And there she was, Rachel. I saved her number to my phone before I returned the phone to its place. I slipped outside, my heart racing. I had to know the truth. I had to confront her. I dialed the number, feeling my pulse quicken as the phone rang. 3 rings. Hello? Rachel answered. Rachel, this is Luna, Eric's wife, I said, my voice coming out more controlled than I felt. Silence stretched between us, the air heavy with tension. I could hear her breath catch. I know this is strange, but I need to talk to you. It's important, and please don't mention this call to Eric. There was a long pause before she spoke. Okay, when? Today, Cloudside's Cafe. At 4? I asked, my voice almost trembling. I'll be there, she replied. The call ended, and I stood frozen in the backyard, the weight of the situation finally hitting me. I wasn't sure what would happen next, but I knew one thing. My world had just been turned upside down, and I was about to face a truth that I was scared to find. The cafe buzzed with the usual hum of an afternoon crowd. People chatting, the clink of mugs against saucers, the low murmur of conversations, but everything around me felt distant as my eyes locked on Rachel, sitting at the corner table. I spotted her immediately. Honey blonde hair, a soft blue sweater stretched over her round belly, her hands wrapped protectively around her mug. 7 months, maybe 8. She didn't smile when I approached, her expression serious, as though she had already braced herself for the confrontation. I wasn't sure if I should come, Rachel said, her voice low, hesitant. She took a slow sip of her tea before setting the cup down, her fingers tapping nervously on the ceramic. I sat down across from her, my heart pounding, and pulled the crumpled receipt from my bag. I placed it carefully between us on the table. The numbers on it were burned into my mind. $379.89. A stroller, a car seat combo from Tiny Treasures. Rachel looked at the receipt. Her eyes widened, then her face fell. Oh God, she whispered, her voice barely audible. It felt like the ground beneath me was slipping away, but I forced myself to stay focused. Rachel, I started, trying to keep my voice steady. Why is my husband buying you a stroller? She looked at me, confusion written all over her face. Your husband? She repeated slowly. Eric told me you two were separated, that you moved out months ago. I felt my world tilt on its axis. What? The words came out before I could stop them. A sharp, jagged gasp of disbelief. Rachel's face twisted in discomfort as she glanced down at her lap. He said you were in denial about the divorce, that he was just helping you transition while he found his own place. He's been staying with me 3 nights a week for months. The words didn't register immediately. I just stared at her, my mind scrambling to catch up. 3 nights a week? Staying with her? My throat closed up. I couldn't speak. My eyes welled with tears, but I refused to let them fall. This wasn't about tears. It was about the truth, and the truth was suffocating me. Eric said he dreamed of being a father, Rachel continued, placing a hand gently over her belly, as though instinctively protecting the baby inside. He said he would move in with me before the baby arrives. Her voice cracked as she spoke. I couldn't breathe. We've been married for 5 years, I snapped, the words tumbling out before I could control them. I live with him. Every day. How could he? Rachel's eyes filled with tears of her own, but she didn't look angry. She just looked heartbroken. I didn't know. I swear, I didn't know I was the other woman, she said, her voice small and fragile. You weren't, I shot back, my voice icy now. You were just another woman he lied to. Her hands trembled slightly as she pushed her untouched tea away from her. What do we do now? She asked, her voice soft, almost pleading. I leaned forward, the final piece of the puzzle snapping into place inside my head. Something hardened inside me, a sense of clarity that chilled me to the bone. I took a deep breath. We make sure he never gets the chance to lie to either of us again. The words felt like a promise, a vow, and somehow they gave me the strength to do what I needed to do. Later that evening, I was eerily calm as I packed an overnight bag. Eric sat on the couch scrolling through his phone as if nothing had changed, as if everything was fine. But I could see the way his fingers moved across the screen, the way he was texting someone with an intensity that made my stomach twist. I knew it was her. Where are you going? He asked without looking up from his phone. My sister's. Just overnight, I replied, keeping my tone as neutral as possible. I didn't want him to know how much this was hurting me. I didn't want him to see the cracks in my calm facade. Right, he said, barely acknowledging me. Drive safe. No goodbye kiss. No, I'll miss you. Just a simple dismissive gesture. Eyes glued to his screen, probably texting Rachel. The thought made my blood run cold, but I didn't let it show. I just grabbed my bag and walked out. The next morning, I woke early and texted Rachel. It's time. Her response was immediate. He's coming for brunch at 11. Said he has a surprise for me. I smiled, a dark, satisfied grin. So do we. I arrived at her townhouse. At 10:30 a.m., Rachel opened the door, looking pale but determined. She didn't smile when she saw me, but there was something almost relieved in her eyes, as though she was finally seeing me for who I really was, someone who wasn't going to let this betrayal slide. We didn't need to say much to each other. We didn't need to explain our plan. It was simple, it was clear, and it was happening. Eric was about to get a very rude awakening. I wrapped the stroller, Rachel said, her voice almost flat as she pointed to a large, neatly wrapped box with a bow sitting in the middle of her living room. Figured we might as well use it. The atmosphere in the room was thick with unspoken tension. Neither of us said much as we waited. Rachel moved around her kitchen, making tea that neither of us had any intention of drinking. I found myself mindlessly straightening the already perfect silverware on her dining table, the repetitive action somehow giving me a brief sense of control in the chaos of my thoughts. It was just a few minutes after 11:00 when we heard a key turn in the lock. Rachel and I exchanged a quick look, but neither of us said anything. We both knew what was coming. Rach? Eric's voice called out from the doorway. Where's my beautiful girl? I bought cinnamon rolls from... His voice trailed off when he saw me sitting at the table, a calm, almost serene expression on my face. His eyes darted from me to Rachel, then to the wrapped stroller beside us. Luna, what are you? His voice faltered as he took a step inside, his gaze frantic, a mixture of confusion and guilt washing over his face. Hi, honey, I said softly, leaning back in my chair. My voice was steady, but every muscle in my body was on edge. Surprise! Eric's face drained of color, and he quickly set the paper bag of cinnamon rolls on the counter. His hands shook as he struggled to process what he was seeing. This isn't... I can explain. Please do, Rachel snapped, her voice sharp and cold. Explain how you're living with your wife while telling me you're separated. I added, my voice calm but firm. Or explain this, as I slid the receipt across the table. The same receipt I had found days before, the one that had torn apart everything. I thought I knew about Eric. $380 for a stroller. That mysteriously disappeared from our account. Eric's gaze dropped to the receipt, his eyes widening in panic. He set down the bag, his hands trembling now, the weight of his lies catching up with him. You both need to understand, this is a complicated situation. I shook my head slowly. Actually, Eric, it's quite simple. I paused, feeling a surge of anger building in my chest. Are there any other women that have your babies? He flinched at the question, his eyes darting from me to Rachel, a look of desperation creeping across his face. This is an ambush. You're twisting everything. I never meant to hurt either of you. No one's twisting anything, Eric, Rachel hissed, her voice growing colder by the second. We've both been lied to, and now it's time to face the truth. I stood up, the exhaustion finally catching up with me. My knees felt weak, but I wasn't about to let him see how much this was affecting me. That's the thing about lies, Eric, I said, my voice low and steady. You don't get to control who they hurt. Luna, please! Eric reached out toward me, but I stepped back, putting distance between us. My heart pounded in my chest, but there was no turning back now. We're done, I said, my voice hardening with finality. I'll be getting a lawyer. You can stay. With Rachel if she'll have you. Rachel crossed her arms over her chest, her stance resolute. I won't, she said simply. I want you gone. Now. Eric's face twisted, a mix of frustration and panic. He opened his mouth to say something, but nothing came out. Instead, he stumbled over his words, trying to form a coherent sentence. You can't just... Yes, we can, Rachel interrupted, her voice cutting through his protests. The lease is in my name. I want you to leave. Now. Eric's face contorted in disbelief. But the baby? He began, his voice faltering as if trying to cling to whatever excuse might save him. Rachel's face softened just a little, but her voice was firm. The baby will have a father who pays child support, she said quietly, but there was no mistaking the finality in her tone. Nothing more. Not until I can trust you again. Eric looked between us, his mask of confidence finally slipping to reveal the panic-stricken man beneath it. You're making a mistake, he said, his voice low and desperate. No, I said, grabbing my purse from the chair, my movements deliberate, each one a small step toward my freedom. The mistake was thinking you were the man you pretended to be. The words felt like a weight lifting off my shoulders. They weren't just the end of our relationship. They were the end of the lies, the end of everything he had built to deceive us both. The final nail in the coffin of our marriage. The weeks that followed were a blur of paperwork, phone calls with lawyers, and long nights spent crying. But amidst the confusion and pain, there was a sense of relief. The truth was out, and I no longer had to live in the shadow of his lies. As for Eric, he quickly found that the life he had tried to build with deceit was no longer his to control. For both of us, this was the beginning of something new, something real. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was finally free. I moved in with my sister, found solace in the comfort of her home, and filed for divorce. It felt like the beginning of a new chapter, but one that was filled with both pain and relief. I built walls around what remained of my heart, making sure not to let anyone in too easily. Eric's calls came daily at first, text messages ranging from desperate apologies to angry accusations. I blocked his number, not wanting to hear any more of his empty promises and explanations. I needed space. I needed time. A month after that fateful brunch, my phone buzzed. It was an unknown number. I hesitated before answering, unsure of what to expect. Hi, it's Rachel. Hope it's okay if I text you. This is my new number. I stared at the message for a moment, unsure of how to respond, but I couldn't ignore her. She had been a part of the chaos, but she had also been a victim of Eric's lies. Finally, I replied, "It's fine. How are you?" Rachel's response came almost instantly. 8 months pregnant and surprisingly okay. I wanted to let you know, Eric's been trying to win me back. He's claiming he's changed. A strange feeling settled in my chest. It wasn't jealousy. It was concern. Concern for the woman I knew was still being manipulated by the same man who had shattered my life. And, I typed, wanting to know how she was handling it. I told him the only relationship we'll have involves a parenting plan and child support payments. Rachel replied. Good for you, I texted back, feeling a wave of respect for her. She had done what I couldn't do for so long. She had drawn a line, set boundaries, and taken control of her life. She continued, I just wanted to say thank you for telling me the truth before it was too late, before I built a life on his lies. I read her message carefully, my heart swelling with emotion. Her words echoed something deep inside me. They reminded me of the woman I had been just weeks ago, blind to the cracks in my own marriage, thinking everything was fine, holding on to a version of my life that was built on falsehoods. It hurt to think about how far I had fallen for those lies. We both deserved better, I typed back quickly, my fingers trembling as I hit send. I meant every word. That evening, as the sun began to set, I sat on my sister's balcony, looking out over the quiet neighborhood. The sky was painted in shades of orange and pink, a beautiful reminder that even the darkest days could give way to something new. The pain of my recent loss was still fresh, still raw, but there was something else starting to grow inside me, a sense of freedom, a sense of strength I hadn't known I possessed. Eric had shattered everything I thought I knew about love, trust, and marriage, but he hadn't broken me. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I felt an unexpected truth settling in my heart. Sometimes, losing what you thought you had makes room for what you truly deserve. Tomorrow would be another day of rebuilding. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I also knew I was capable of it. For now, though, I took a moment to breathe. I raised my glass to the setting sun, to endings that made way for new beginnings, and to the strength of women who refused to settle for beautiful lies. It felt like a quiet victory, and in that moment, it was enough.